Hello everyone, welcome back to the ESKC Movie channel. In this video, we're going to discuss a war film that's quite different from most other war films. Whilst war films usually focus on military strategy, battles and tales of heroism, this film takes a far darker and more harrowing turn. Imagine a secret military mission set against the backdrop of the Second World War. A group of soldiers is dropped into enemy territory to destroy a vital German communications tower. At first, everything seems like a routine military operation. However, the closer they get to their target, the more strange occurrences they encounter. The village, which should have been an ordinary location, turns out to harbor a terrifying secret they could never have imagined. The film we're going to discuss is Overlord Asterisk, a film that blends elements of war, action, thriller and horror into a single, highly suspenseful experience. Let's get the story started. The start of a dangerous mission. The story begins in 1944, in the run-up to the major Allied landings in Normandy, France. Inside a military aircraft, a group of American soldiers are preparing to carry out a crucial mission. One of them is Boyce, a young soldier who is actually not very experienced on the battlefield. Boyce was not the sort of soldier who craved battle. He often appeared more nervous than his comrades. Yet this time, he had to take part in a highly dangerous operation. On paper, their mission was straightforward. They were to infiltrate a German-held village and destroy a radio tower being used to jam Allied communications in the run-up to the major invasion. But right from the start, things had gone badly. Their aircraft was spotted by German forces and immediately came under heavy anti-aircraft fire. Explosions were going off everywhere. Flames began to engulf the fuselage. The soldiers screamed in panic. Some were killed before they even had a chance to jump out. Within seconds, the situation had turned into a nightmare. Boyce finally jumped out with his parachute and managed to survive. However, many of his comrades were not as fortunate as he was. Surviving in enemy territory. After landing, Boyce found several members of his team who had also managed to survive. Led by Ford, a resolute and experienced officer, they continued their mission despite their numbers being greatly reduced. They were now deep behind enemy lines. The slightest mistake could cost them their lives.
It's much less a fucking folks don't know.
As they made their way through the forest and along dark roads, they eventually came across a young woman named Chloe. At first, they were suspicious. However, it turned out that Chloe was a villager living under the brutal occupation of German forces. She agreed to help them reach their destination. Through Chloe, the soldiers began to understand just how cruel the German forces were in that village. The villagers lived in fear. They were forced into submission. Anyone who resisted would be punished without mercy. Yet there was something even stranger than the military occupation itself. Many villagers spoke in fearful tones when discussing an old church on the hilltop. That place had become the center of the German soldiers' activities. And no one knew for certain what they were doing there. The mystery of the old church. It was getting late when the team began observing the church from a distance. The radio tower they were targeting was indeed situated on top of the building. However, the activity they witnessed seemed unusual. Lorries were coming and going constantly. Soldiers were standing guard very closely. It was as if something very important was being hidden inside. Ford decided they had to get inside to gather information. Boyce, who was known to be calmer and more cautious, was eventually chosen to carry out the investigation. Taking a great risk, he managed to sneak into the building. What he found there completely changed the course of the story. A dark secret beneath the ground. Beneath the church lay a secret laboratory. The place was filled with medical equipment, experimental chambers and various eerie research facilities. Boyce saw evidence that the German army was conducting experiments on humans. The victims were not just soldiers. Many civilians were also targeted. They were injected with a mysterious liquid derived from a strange substance found deep underground. The results of the experiment were truly horrific. Some of the victims were transformed into creatures that were still alive but no longer entirely human. Their bodies had mutated. They possessed extraordinary strength. However, they had lost much of their humanity. Boyce realized that the Germans were attempting to create a super army. An army capable of surviving fatal wounds and continuing to fight without fear. This discovery was far more dangerous than a mere radio tower. A growing threat. When Boyce returned and reported everything to the team, not everyone believed him straight away. Some thought what he had seen was simply too implausible. However, those doubts quickly vanished when they came face to face with the results of the experiment. They witnessed someone who should have been dead rise again. His body was severely mangled. Yet he kept moving, kept attacking, kept living. This moment marked a turning point as the film shifted from a war film to a suspense-filled horror film. Their enemy was now not just the German soldiers, but also the unstoppable result of the experiment. Characters that make the film strong. One of Overlord's greatest strengths is its characters. Boyce evolves from a fearful young soldier into someone brave enough to make crucial decisions. This transformation feels natural and convincing. Ford is also a fascinating character. He is tough, cold and mission-focused. Yet beneath it all, he understands the immense responsibility he must shoulder as a leader. Meanwhile, Chloe serves as a symbol of hope for the villagers. She has lost so much to the war, yet continues to fight for her family and for a better future. The interactions between these three characters keep the audience engaged with the story, even amidst the escalating action and horror. A terrifying villain. This film also features a highly effective antagonist. A German officer named Warner is a cunning, cruel and ambitious figure. He believes that the experiments being carried out could change the course of the war. For him, morality is irrelevant. All that matters is victory. This character is not a supernatural monster. But it is precisely because he is an ordinary human being that his actions feel all the more terrifying. He represents the dark side of power and science when used without moral restraint. The battle reaches its climax. Towards the end of the film, the situation becomes increasingly chaotic. Ford's team realizes that they must not only destroy the radio tower. They must also stop the research before its findings are put to wider use. What began as a simple mission turned into a struggle to prevent a far greater disaster. Battle after battle ensued. Explosions shook the buildings. Gunfire rang out from all directions. The experimental creatures kept appearing. The tension never really let up. The film successfully maintains its pace, keeping the audience constantly on edge. The climax. The climax offers a perfect blend of war action and horror.
Sie werden mir mein Werk.
Boyce must face a difficult choice. He could focus on saving himself, or risk his life to ensure the experiment is destroyed once and for all. The final battle is brutal. Every character must confront their greatest fears. There is no guarantee that everyone will survive, and that is what makes the climax so gripping. The strength of this film lies in its boldness in blending two different genres. War films usually strive for realism, whilst horror films often rely on fantastical elements. Overlord successfully combines the two without it feeling out of place. The action scenes are intense. The visual effects are convincing. The horror atmosphere is also effective. The film does not rely too heavily on jump scares. Instead, it builds tension through a gloomy atmosphere and a sense of dread about what might appear next. Visually, the film is highly impressive. The opening scene on the aeroplane is one of the most gripping openings to a war film in recent years. The audience is immediately thrown into the thick of the chaos. The camera moves swiftly. Explosions are going off everywhere. The soldiers' panic feels very real. The underground laboratory is also very well designed. Narrow corridors, dim lighting and experimental equipment create a creepy atmosphere. The meaning behind the story, although full of action and horror, Overlord has a rather interesting message. This film shows how an obsession with power can destroy humanity. The German scientists and officers in the story are willing to sacrifice human lives to achieve their goals. They believe the end justifies the means. Yet it is precisely those actions that create monsters. Not just physical monsters, but also monsters in the moral sense. This film serves as a reminder that when humans lose their empathy and ethical boundaries, the consequences can be more terrifying than war itself. Conclusion: the film Overlord successfully delivers a unique experience. It is not merely a war film, nor is it merely a horror film. This film combines the two into a spectacle brimming with adrenaline, suspense and surprises. With strong characters, intense action, a gripping atmosphere and a story that keeps moving forward, Overlord is a must-watch hybrid genre film. For fans of war films, there are plenty of satisfying battle scenes. For horror fans, there are plenty of spine-chilling moments that will set your heart racing. And for general audiences, this film offers a story that is easy to follow yet remains engaging right through to the end. Conclusion: the film Overlord successfully delivers a unique experience. It is not merely a war film, nor is it merely a horror film. This film combines the two into a spectacle brimming with adrenaline, suspense and surprises. With strong characters, intense action, a gripping atmosphere and a story that keeps moving forward, Overlord is a must-watch hybrid genre film. For fans of war films, there are plenty of satisfying battle scenes. For horror fans, there are plenty of spine-chilling moments that will set your heart racing. And for general audiences, this film offers a story that is easy to follow yet remains engaging right through to the end.